The Iron Knight under Ovik's familiar moved after its chest had been flattened thinner than a coin. Its broken arm still clawed toward me, as if a toy with no core had decided it was not done living. For 3 seconds, nobody in the examination yard laughed. Then Ovik's silver hawk lifted one claw, looked down at the thing it had crushed, and tapped it again. The little knight stopped moving. The laughter returned twice as loud. I stood beside the anvil with a hammer in one hand and the strange memory of my own death still burning behind my eyes. In my old world, I had died because a shelf of cheap metal models had fallen during an earthquake. I had built those models for fun. Dying under them had been stupid enough. Waking up in another world and being told to build another one felt personal. Ovik spread his arms to the crowd. "Be careful, Keld's army may attack again." More laughter. Around us, nearly 200 applicants watched from stone seats. Above them hung the Academy ranking board. Ovik was already in the top 10. My name sat at the bottom with a score of 1. 1 point. The examiner, Roland, did not smile. That made it worse. He picked up my Iron Knight between 2 fingers. No mana core, no contract mark, no spirit seal, no combat value. He dropped it into a scrap bucket. A children's ornament. I looked at the bucket. The knight's bent helmet was still facing me. Roland turned toward the board. Keld receives the Toy Smith class, rank F, last place. A red line appeared beside my name. The crowd made the sound people made when they saw someone lose money in public. I had arrived in this body less than an hour earlier. I knew 3 things about it. I was poor, I had no family influence, and the Academy had just decided I belonged beneath everyone else. Ovik walked past me with his silver hawk on his shoulder. The bird was almost as large as a wolf. Thin plates of enchanted steel covered its chest. Blue fire burned in its eyes. "My father paid 60 gold for the egg," he said. "The contract cost another 15. Try not to challenge it with kitchenware next time." I looked at the hawk. Then I looked at the scrap bucket. "How much does it eat?" Ovik blinked. "What?" "Per month." He frowned as if I had insulted his grandmother. 4 gold in crystal feed. Why?" "Nothing." I was already calculating. The iron in my little knight had cost less than 10 copper. If it had really moved on its own, the joke was not on me. I just did not know it yet. Roland handed out workshop assignments after the examination. The best crafters received rooms in the Eastern Hall. The middle ranks shared public forges. I received a brass key with rust around the teeth. "Old club forge," Roland said. Someone behind me laughed again. "It has not been used in 6 years." I looked at the key. "Does it have an anvil?" "Probably." "A furnace?" "If the chimney has not collapsed." "Scrap metal?" Roland's eyes narrowed. "You should be more concerned about your ranking. Students below rank 180 can lose meal support after the first monthly review. My name was rank 197. "How many days?" 30. "Good." He stared at me. I walked away before he could ask why 30 days sounded good. The old club forge stood behind the western dormitory, half hidden by vines. Its sign had once said, "Miniature Arts Society." Someone had scratched out "Arts" and written "Trash." Inside I found dust, a cracked furnace, an anvil, broken tools, and enough rust to make a thief cry. Then a calm voice spoke in my head. "Class path recognized, breeder of automatons, smith of life, emperor of miniatures." No window appeared. Good. I did not need glowing text while holding a hammer. Unique law recognized. Any completed miniature form personally forged by the host may awaken without a core. One rule. Simple. I pulled my crushed knight from the scrap bucket and set it on the anvil. "You cost 9 copper. Please justify the investment." I heated the body, hammered the chest back into shape, repaired the leg, and left the sword broken. This body knew the basics of smithing, even if I did not. Heat, strike, turn, quench. The moment the form was complete, the knight stood. I froze. It raised its sword stump. Walk. It took 5 steps, tripped over a nail, and fell face first into ash. I laughed until I had to sit down. The weakest normal summon needed a core worth at least 8 gold. A trained familiar cost 20 or 30. Ovik's hawk had cost 75 before food. Mine cost 9 copper and had just lost a duel with the floor. It was weak, but weak could be measured. I forged a wolf from scrap hinges and rod. Its material cost 22 copper. One ear was too large and its tail looked like a bent spoon. When I finished the last paw, it woke, looked at the knight, and tackled it into a bucket. Excellent. My army has discipline problems. A girl laughed from the doorway. Senna carried a paper bag and a lantern. She studied the wolf instead of laughing at it. Where is the core? There isn't one. Contract seal? Also missing. The wolf touched its metal nose to her finger. The knight climbed onto the table and stood between us with its sword stump raised. Senna's expression softened. It is protecting you. I moved. The knight moved with me and placed itself in front of my boot. The first thing it chose after being crushed and repaired was to guard me. That mattered. Then the furnace coughed smoke and ruined the moment. Senna opened the bag. Inside were thick bread, roast chicken, buttered potatoes, and sharp pickled cabbage. We ate on crates while she offered one potato to the wolf. It does not eat, I said. I know. The wolf bit the potato anyway. Both pieces fell through its empty body. Senna laughed until tears appeared. Very advanced. 30 copper of research and development. The warm moment lasted until Ovik kicked the door open with 6 students behind him and his silver hawk above his shoulder. He looked around. So they really gave you the trash room? His friends laughed. Then the wolf turned its head toward them. They stopped. Ovik recovered first. Bring it tomorrow. Public summon field. My hawk against your scrap animal. Prize? 1 gold. 10. His friends choked on their laughter. Ovik looked at them, then at me. Too many witnesses. Too much pride. 10 gold. Agreed. As he turned away, the hawk spread its wings. The wolf shifted sideways before I gave any command. Its front leg moved through the exact angle the hawk's claw had used to crush my knight. I picked the wolf up. That leg contained iron reforged from the knight's damaged chest. A shallow bend matched the old strike. The wolf had never fought the hawk. The metal had. The quiet voice in my head said only one sentence. Completed living metal preserves useful deformation through reforging. Ovik mistook my silence for fear. He smiled. Changed your mind? I looked at the wolf worth 22 copper, then at the hawk worth 75 gold. No, I said. I just realized 10 gold is too cheap. By the next morning, half the academy had heard that last place was challenging a top 10 familiar with scrap. The rumor grew faster than mold and wet bread. At breakfast, 3 students pointed at me. By the time I reached the forge, 12 were waiting outside. By noon, the public field was full. The ranking board had even posted the challenge. Ovik stood in polished combat clothes beside his silver hawk. Roland had come to supervise. Senna stood near the front rail with a paper bag under one arm. I carried the wolf in both hands. Someone shouted, "Do not drop it. That is his whole army." The crowd laughed. I placed the wolf on the sand. Ovik's hawk landed opposite it. The size difference was absurd. The wolf reached the hawk's ankle. It looked like a dinner fork challenging a refrigerator with anger issues. Roland raised one hand. No lethal attacks on students. Constructs may be destroyed. The wager is 10 gold. Begin. The hawk moved first. Its claw came down. Yesterday, that strike had flattened my knight. Today, the wolf stepped exactly 1 body length sideways. The claw hit sand. The crowd stopped laughing. Ovik frowned. Again. The hawk struck from the left. The wolf twisted through the same narrow angle preserved in its leg. Miss. Third strike. Miss. A murmur moved through the stands. Ovik shouted, "Use Silver Rush." The hawk's plates flashed. It crossed 10 meters in less than a second. The wolf did not run away. It ran toward the hawk. That was the part nobody expected. It slid under the larger familiar, jumped onto one rear joint, and bit down on a leather control strap. The strap snapped. One wing locked halfway open. The hawk stumbled. The crowd exploded. Not cheering. Noise. Pure shock. Ovik's face went white. "Get it off!" The hawk kicked. The wolf was thrown 6 meters. It hit the ground, rolled twice, and one rear leg bent sideways. Roland stepped forward. It cannot continue. The wolf stood up. Roland stopped. The bent leg did not straighten. Instead, the wolf adjusted its stance around the damage. It ran with 3 good legs and 1 crooked one, faster than before. My skin went cold. Another useful deformation. Another lesson. Ovik did not understand what he was seeing. Crush it! The hawk lunged with its remaining wing extended for balance. The wolf jumped onto the wing frame, then onto the shoulder, then onto the back of its neck. The silver hawk spun. The wolf locked its jaws around a thin blue crystal tube behind the head. I had seen the tube yesterday. Feed conduit. The wolf bit. Blue liquid sprayed across the sand. The hawk's eyes went dark. It collapsed. The tiny wolf remained standing on its neck. For 1 full second, the entire field was silent. Then someone in the back shouted, "22 copper!" The field erupted. Students stood on benches. People pushed toward the rail. Someone began repeating the numbers. 22 copper beats 75 gold! Ovik stared at his familiar. Roland checked the hawk, then looked at me. The familiar is disabled. Winner, Keld. The ranking board flashed. My name moved from 197 to 142. 55 places in a single fight. Strength had increased because the wolf had learned. Money had increased by 10 gold. Status had increased enough that students were now yelling my name instead of laughing at it. All 3 numbers moved. I like this world a little more. Ovik walked to me with the wager purse. He shoved it against my chest. You broke the feed tube. That was luck. I weighed the purse in my hand. 10 gold feels heavy for luck. The crowd laughed at him this time. His jaw tightened. He leaned closer. Tomorrow, the workshop inspection happens. Roland decides which clubs receive Academy medal. That ruin of yours will get nothing. Now I understood his real reason for smiling. He did not just want revenge. He wanted to starve the forge. Roland heard him. The examiner's face remained calm. Too calm. Senna came down from the rail and handed me the paper bag. "Chicken pie," she said. "Before or after the threat?" "Both." We returned to the forge with the wolf riding on my shoulder and the knight marching beside my boot. I repaired the wolf while the pie cooled on the table. The crust cracked under my fork. Steam smelled of pepper, onion, and dark gravy. Sina had added small pieces of carrot and potato. The bottom crust had soaked up the chicken fat until it was soft and salty. I gave the wolf an empty plate. It put both front paws on it proudly. "Progress," Sina said. "Yesterday it tried to eat through its own stomach. High standards." I opened Ovik's purse. 10 gold coins. I spent 2 that afternoon on clean iron, coal, and new tongs. I kept 8. At sunset, I laid the new bars on the anvil. The damaged wolf stood nearby. The knight watched from the table. I heated the wolf's bent rear leg and began to reforge it. Instead of hammering the bend flat, I preserved the angle that had let it run faster after being kicked. The metal accepted the change. Then something strange happened. The knight turned toward the new iron bars. The wolf turned too. Both stared at the same piece of metal. I checked the purchase mark. The bar had been cut from one larger ingot. So had the strip I had used to patch the knight. So had the plate in the wolf's chest. 3 pieces. 1 original mass. The quiet voice returned. Living forms forged from the same parent metal may recognize one another as parts of a greater mechanism. I looked at the bars. There was enough iron for perhaps 12 more miniatures. Outside, the academy bell rang for evening curfew. Inside, every piece of metal from that ingot turned toward me at the same time. At dawn, 12 cold iron bars rolled off the shelf by themselves and formed a rough circle around my anvil. None of them was alive yet, but every strip cut from the same ingot was pointing toward the dented knight like compass needles toward north. I had slept for 3 hours. That was enough to make this look normal. Senna arrived with 2 cups of bitter black tea and found me sitting on the floor with chalk marks everywhere. "You look worse than yesterday." "The metal is organizing." That sentence did not improve anything. I showed her the test. I placed the knight on the left side of the room. The wolf stood on the right. Between them, I put 3 unfinished strips from the parent ingot. The knight walked left. The wolf turned left before I gave a command. Then I moved the knight behind the furnace. The wolf followed the direction even though it could not see it. Senna stopped drinking. "They can sense each other." Not exactly. I moved the knight onto a crate. The wolf looked at the crate. They seemed to share position and intent. How many can you make? I looked at the remaining iron. From this batch? 12 small bodies if I use thin plates. Maybe 15 if I make something embarrassing. You already made a wolf with a spoon for a tail. Then 15. The workshop inspection began at 9. Roland arrived with 2 assistants, a clerk named Toma and Ovik, who had no official reason to be there except that rich people often treated rules like decorative curtains. 30 students followed them. Yesterday's fight had turned my forge into a tourist attraction. Roland stood in the doorway and looked at the repaired furnace, the swept floor, the stacked iron, and the tiny knight guarding my breakfast. You spent your wager money quickly. 2 gold. Toma's pen stopped. Only 2? 1 gold and 30 silver for iron and coal, 30 silver for tools, 40 silver for a new chimney collar. Roland looked at the wolf. And the remaining 8 gold? Mine. A few students laughed. Roland did not. Academy workshops are not private businesses. To receive material support, a club must demonstrate educational value, safe practice, and stable production. He placed a paper on the table. Your assigned class has no approved curriculum. Your constructs have no registered cores. Yesterday, one damaged a valuable familiar. Ovik smiled. There it was, not a cartoon villain, a rule. Rules were harder to punch. What do I need to pass? I asked. Roland pointed toward the courtyard. The same test every craft club takes. Produce 6 functional pieces in 1 hour. Each must perform its declared function. Then, complete the load trial. What load? 100 kilograms moved 10 meters. Ovik laughed. My wolf weighed less than 4 kilograms. My knight weighed less than 1. Roland continued. And because your work is animated, every piece must remain under control. 1 failure closes the forge until review. Sina folded her arms. That condition was not on the paper. Roland looked at her. No other club produces unregistered autonomous constructs. So you added a rule after seeing his work. The students went quiet. Roland's jaw moved once. He had a reason, but in front of witnesses, it sounded exactly as bad as it was. Safety requires adaptation, he said. I nodded. Fine. 6 pieces. 1 hour, 100 kilograms, full control. Ovik looked disappointed that I had not complained. Complaining is expensive. It buys nothing. I lit the furnace. For the next 50 minutes, I did not speak. I had planned 3 wolves and 3 knights. Then I changed my mind. Wolves needed too many joints. I forged 6 beetles. Each was the size of my palm. Thick shell, 6 simple legs, flat back. Ugly enough to survive honest work. The crowd became restless after the first one. Someone said, "That is his great army?" The first beetle woke and immediately crawled under my boot. Laughter. The second woke. It crawled under the other boot. More laughter. The third and fourth went to the corners of the anvil. The 5th climbed onto the first. The 6th stopped in front of me. I put down the hammer with 6 minutes left. Function, Roland said. Carrying. Ovik looked at the beetles, then at the wooden test block marked 100 kilograms. He started laughing before anyone else. Those things together do not weigh 10. 8.4, Toma said from his notes. I looked at him. Thank you. Toma looked embarrassed. The 6 beetles moved to the block. I had cut all 6 bodies from the same parent bar. The moment the first touched the wood, the others changed position. Not because I commanded them separately, because the metal understood a shared purpose. 2 went under the front edge. 2 went under the rear. 2 climbed onto the sides and hooked their legs around iron rings. Lift, I said. Nothing happened. Ovik laughed louder. Roland looked at the clock. I crouched. The problem was not strength. The beetles were pulling in 6 slightly different directions. 1 parent metal did not mean 1 mind. It meant 1 mechanism waiting for a shape. So I gave it one. I took a thin rod from the bench and threaded it through the hooks on their shells. 1 rod, 6 bodies, a frame. The change was immediate. All 6 beetles lowered at the same instant. The rod bent. The block lifted 1 finger width. The laughter died. Walk, I said. The first pair stepped. The other 4 moved at the exact same rhythm. The 100-kilogram block crossed the first meter, then the second. Students began counting. 3, 4, 5. At 6 meters, one beetle's leg twisted. The frame dipped. Ovik shouted, "There!" The damaged beetle adjusted. Its leg bent under the load and locked into a new angle. The entire formation shifted around it. 7, 8, 9, 10. The block hit the finish line. The courtyard exploded. Toma stared at his notes. 8.4 kilograms moved 100. I removed the rod. The beetles separated and returned to my boots. Strength had not come from making one stronger construct. It came from making cheap bodies behave like one machine. That was more dangerous. Roland knew it too. He walked around the beetles slowly. How much? I liked that question. 31 copper each, 1 silver, and 86 copper total. Several students repeated the number. 1 silver and 86 copper. 100 kilograms. 10 meters. Ovik's face had stopped being funny. Roland turned to Toma. Production test passed. Load test passed. Ovik stepped forward. What about control? Right on time. He kicked one beetle. The beetle rolled across the floor. The wolf moved before I spoke. It sprang from the table. The knight drew its broken sword. All 6 beetles turned toward Ovik. The crowd gasped. Roland's eyes sharpened. Ovik smiled. There. Autonomous aggression. He had baited them. Smart. I lifted one hand. Every construct stopped. The wolf froze in the air and landed without attacking. The knight lowered its sword. The beetles turned back to me. Ovik stared. I looked at his boot. You dented Academy property. Toma made a choking sound that might have been a laugh. The crowd did not bother hiding theirs. Roland closed his eyes for 1 second. Control test passed. That was the second public loss Ovik had taken in 2 days. He left before anyone could count it for him. Roland stayed. You will receive the lowest material subsidy, he said. 5 gold and iron credit per month. A normal combat craft club received 20. The best received 50. 5 was still more than 0. Accepted. Sina frowned. Roland saw it. His process is unregistered. The Academy cannot subsidize it at full rate until we know the risk. That was fair enough to say. Then he added, and all commercial sales require approval. There was the knife. I looked at the crowd. Rentals? Roland paused. What? You said sales. Sina turned away because she was already smiling. Toma looked at the paper. Roland knew he had made a mistake. Rental activity is governed by service rules. Good. I picked up 1 beetle. Then I rent carrying units. By lunch, I had my first customer. Not a student. The Academy kitchen. The head cook needed sacks of flour moved from the lower storehouse. Porters charged 1 silver per cart. There were 8 carts. I offered 6 beetles and 1 rod for 4 silver total. The cook looked at my palm-sized machines. If they drop flour, you clean it. Agreed. Senna whispered, you have never moved flour with them. Then today is educational. We had 30 students following us again. Rumors were now doing my advertising for free. The beetles moved the first sack, then 2, then a wooden platform with 4 sacks. They were slower than human porters, but they did not get tired. At the 4th cart, the damaged beetle's bent leg locked more efficiently under load. At the 6th, the other 5 began copying its stance. Not magically, mechanically. They watched the successful deformation through shared motion and adjusted their own bodies against the rod. By the 8th cart, they were moving 20% faster than at the start. Toma had followed us from the inspection. He timed them. First load took 6 minutes. Last took 4 minutes and 48 seconds. The cook paid me 4 silver. Then she pointed at the beetles. Tomorrow morning, same price. 5 silver. She stared at me. 4.5. Done. My first repeat income was 4.5 silver per day. That was not much compared with Ovik's family money. It was mine. By the time we returned to the forge, 3 more people were waiting. The library wanted something small enough to enter ventilation shafts and chase mana-moths. The laundry wanted a cart puller. A potion club wanted a stirrer that could turn a mixing wheel without brakes. I did not have those models yet. I had demand. Demand was better. I spent another gold that afternoon. Copper wire, thin steel, rivets, better coal. My cash fell from 8 gold to 7, then rose by 4 silver and 50 copper from the kitchen contract. Resources increased. Orders increased. My ranking moved again when the Academy Service Board recorded a successful club contract. From 142 to 129. 13 places from moving flour. This academy respected combat, but apparently bread had political power. Senna brought lunch late. We ate at the forge door while the beetles stood in a neat row beside us. She had packed rice cooked in chicken stock, slices of roasted pork with crisp edges, green beans fried with garlic, and a small jar of hot red sauce. The pork fat melted into the rice. The sauce burned my tongue hard enough to make me see my old world for half a second. Senna watched me cough. Too hot? No, I am testing durability. You failed. She gave 1 grain of rice to the wolf. It opened its mouth. The grain fell through. Still advanced, she said. We ate in comfortable silence. Then Senna touched the dent on the wolf's shoulder. Does repairing them hurt them? I stopped chewing. I had not asked that. The wolf leaned into her finger. I don't know. You should. She was right. That was why she mattered. Everyone else saw cheap summons. I saw mechanics and money. Senna saw living things. That evening, I tested repairs carefully. I heated only a damaged plate while the wolf stood still. It did not resist. When the metal softened, the wolf lowered its head, not in pain, in trust. I repaired the crack, but preserved the useful bend beneath it. When I finished, the wolf pressed its head against my wrist. I did not joke. The knight climbed onto the anvil and waited beside it. I understood something important. Completion gave them life. Reforging was not just maintenance, it was memory surgery. If I flattened every scar, I could erase what they had learned. That made every hammer strike expensive in a way gold could not measure. At sunset, a messenger arrived from the Eastern Hall. He wore Roland's department badge. Master Roland requests your presence at the summoning laboratory. Now? Now. Senna came with me. The laboratory held 6 instructors, 20 senior students, and 1 cage. Inside the cage was a horned boar familiar the size of a small car. Roland stood beside it. Ovik was there too, of course. Roland pointed at my beetles. A question has been raised about whether your constructs qualify as summons or tools. Until the academy decides, they cannot enter the first-year combat exercises. The students began whispering. I looked at Ovik. He did not smile. This was not his trick. Roland continued. However, there is an approved classification test. He gestured toward the boar. A summoned entity must demonstrate autonomous threat recognition, response to a bonded command, and the ability to survive controlled combat pressure. Senna whispered, Controlled? The boar slammed its horns into the cage hard enough to shake the floor. Roland heard her. The familiar is restrained to 10% output. And if my construct breaks, I asked? Then it is a tool. If it passes, it receives provisional summon status. 20 senior students watched. 6 instructors watched. The department clerk stood ready to stamp the result. Perfect witnesses. I placed 1 beetle inside the test circle. Ovik finally smiled. 1? The rule says a summoned entity, singular. Roland looked at me more carefully. Correct. The cage opened. The boar charged. My beetle did not run. It flattened itself. The horn passed over its shell. The boar turned. Second charge. The beetle stepped aside, too slowly. 1 hoof clipped it. Metal screamed across stone. The beetle struck the wall. One side of its shell folded inward. Ovik exhaled through his nose. Tool. The beetle moved. Its crushed shell forced its left legs lower than the right. That should have made it worse. Instead, the new angle let it pivot faster. The boar charged a 3rd time. The beetle turned around one damaged side and slipped past the horn. Senior students leaned forward. 4th charge. Faster pivot. 5th. The beetle was learning the shape of danger through damage. Roland saw it. So did every instructor. Command it, he said. I pointed toward a chalk circle behind the boar. Reach the far mark. The beetle ran. The boar blocked it. The beetle feinted left. The boar followed. The beetle pivoted on the crushed shell and cut right. It crossed the line. The clerk's stamp hit paper. Autonomous recognition confirmed. Command response confirmed. Combat survival confirmed. The senior students broke into applause. Not because the beetle was impressive to look at, because they had just watched a piece of scrap become better after being stepped on. Ovik looked at the floor. Roland walked into the circle and picked up the beetle carefully. How much? Again, my favorite question. 31 copper before damage. One instructor laughed in disbelief. Another said, "The restraint crystal on that boar costs 9 gold." The room erupted into argument. I could hear the future breaking into pieces around me. If cheap living metal counted as a summon, every contract supplier in the kingdom had a problem. Roland raised his voice. "Enough. Provisional status only. No external sales. No breeding claims. No military classification." There was fear beneath his authority now. Not fear of me. Fear of what happened if he approved me too quickly. I understood him better. That did not mean I planned to stop. The clerk updated the board. My rank moved from 129 to 98. Top 100. In 2 days. The message reached the dormitories before I did. Students crowded the corridor to look at me. Someone had drawn a beetle on the announcement board with the words, 31 Copper Hero, beneath it. Ovik tore the paper down. A second copy was already pinned underneath. I almost respected the efficiency. That night, I returned to the forge with 7 gold, 4 silver, 50 copper in cash, 5 gold of monthly iron credit, 4 active service requests, and a provisional summon license. 2 days ago, I had owned 9 copper of dignity. Progress was acceptable. Then I opened the forge door. Every construct inside was standing perfectly still. Knight, wolf, 6 beetles, all faced the eastern wall. I followed their gaze. Beyond that wall, far across the academy grounds, stood the central tower. The floor beneath my boots vibrated once, very softly. The knight raised its head. The wolf did the same. All 6 beetles clicked their legs against the stone in one identical rhythm. From somewhere deep below the academy, something enormous clicked back. Before sunrise, my 6 beetles marched to the eastern wall without a command and arranged themselves into the shape of a gear. A heartbeat later, the floor answered with one slow, metallic pulse from somewhere far beneath the academy. Senna was asleep on a chair with a blanket around her shoulders. I did not wake her. I put my palm against the wall. Nothing. The beetles stayed in formation. The knight climbed onto the wolf's back and pointed its broken sword toward the central tower. "Useful," I whispered. "Terrifying, but useful." I had no time to investigate a building that might be alive. At 6, the kitchen wanted flour moved. At 7, the laundry wanted wet sheets pulled from the lower yard. At 8, the library wanted mana moths removed before they ate another shelf of spell paper. Money first, ancient mechanical secrets second. That was how poor people survived mysteries. Senna woke when I started the furnace. How long did I sleep? 4 hours. And you? 2. She threw the blanket at me. That was not a competition. We ate breakfast while I drew designs in charcoal. The kitchen had sent warm rolls, eggs fried in butter, and thick slices of smoked sausage. The rolls cracked when I tore them open. Steam carried the smell of yeast and salt. Senna pushed an egg onto my plate and watched until I ate it. "You need hands," she said. "I have 2. "That is the problem," she pointed at my order board. 9 requests now. The library wanted 4 moth hunters. The laundry wanted 2 cart pullers. The kitchens wanted a permanent carrying team. A gardener wanted something small that could pull weeds. 2 students wanted practice targets that moved. 1 alchemist wanted a stirrer. I had demand worth almost 3 gold per day. I could not make 3 gold per day if every finished body required my hammer. That was the price of the cheat. Anyone could cut plates for me. Anyone could drill holes. Anyone could prepare rivets and rough shapes. But the final form had to be personally forged by me, or it remained dead metal. "I need assistants who do everything except completion," I said. Senna nodded. "How many?" 3 to start. "Pay?" 2 silver per day each. That is high for students. I need them to care. By 9, I had 5 applicants. By 10, I had 23. The rumor had changed again. Yesterday, I was the last place toysmith. Today, I was the student who paid cash. I hired Jaro, a broad-shouldered metalwork student who had failed the combat track, Dessa, who could cut plate faster than anyone I had seen, and Kato, a quiet first year who knew how to repair bellows. I gave them one rule. You prepare, I finish. Never close the final seam, never strike the final shape. Jaro frowned. Why? Because then it stays a tool. Trade secret? Life secret. He laughed. I did not. He stopped laughing. The system did not give me a factory, it gave me a bottleneck. So I built the factory around the bottleneck. Dessa cut bodies, Kato drilled joints, Jaro bent frames. I moved from station to station and completed each miniature with the last sequence of heating and hammering. The first library hunter took me 28 minutes alone. With them preparing parts, the fourth took 9. By noon, I had finished 12 new units. 4 long-legged spiders for the library, 4 beetles for the kitchen, 2 low carts for laundry, 2 little hammer-shaped walkers for the forge itself. Material cost was 6 silver and 40 copper. Labor for half a day cost 3 silver. Total cost, 9 silver and 40 copper. Daily rental income, if every contract held, would be 1 gold and 80 silver. The numbers finally looked like a business. Then Roland arrived with an academy seal in his hand. He was not alone. Toma followed him, looking uncomfortable. Ovik came behind them. And behind Ovik walked Neral, a clean-shaven man in a dark blue coat marked with the silver crest of Crown Familiar Supply. That name mattered. Crown Familiar Supply sold cores, feed, contracts, and licensed beasts to half the academies in the kingdom. Roland's department received equipment from them every year. Now his caution had a face. Neral looked around my forge. So this is the place. He sounded disappointed. Roland put the seal on my table. Commercial activity is suspended pending review. The forge went quiet. Jaro set down his tongs. Senna stood beside the order board. Outside, students began gathering almost immediately. The academy had learned that conflict near my forge usually came with entertainment. Reason? I asked. Roland looked tired. Scale. Yesterday you demonstrated 6 constructs. Today you have nearly 20. There are no safety standards for uncontrolled replication. They do not replicate, Neral smiled faintly. That distinction will comfort the families when one enters a dormitory at night. I looked at him. Who are you? Ovik answered before he could. Regional Director for Crown Familiar Supply. Nerel's smile tightened. He had wanted to say it himself. Good start. Then you sell the 75 gold bird. Several students outside laughed. Ovik's face darkened. Nerel looked at the repaired silver hawk on Ovik's shoulder. We sell certified reliability. Mine cost 22 copper and beat it. The laughter grew. Roland raised one hand. Enough. This is not a trial. Then why are there witnesses? Senna asked. Roland looked past her at the crowd. There were more than 60 students now. Toma looked like he wanted to disappear into his papers. Nerel stepped closer to my workbench. Young man, nobody is denying that your toys are interesting, but summons are regulated because people die when cheap alternatives fail. A certified beginner familiar survives an average of 40 combat sessions. Its behavior is documented. Its core is traceable. Its owner can be held responsible. That was a real argument. I respected it. Then he touched one of my beetles without asking. The beetle moved away from his finger. His expression changed, only for a moment. Your products have none of that. Then test them. Roland frowned. We already did. You tested one. He is suspending 20. The crowd murmured. Neral studied me. What test do you propose? I pointed toward the service yard. You said certified reliability. Bring a certified unit. Same task, same load, same time. Let everyone watch. Ovik smiled again. And when yours fail, I close commercial rentals myself until review. Sina looked at me sharply. Neral's smile returned. And if yours win? Roland removes the suspension. Crown Familiar Supply pays for the test damage, and you stop calling them toys. The crowd made a low sound. Neral glanced at Roland. Roland did not like any part of this, but refusing in front of 60 students would look like fear. What task? He asked. I looked at the new units. Emergency transport. The academy service yard had an old stone ramp used for rescue drills. At the bottom stood a wooden cart loaded with 200 kilograms of sandbags. The task was simple. Move the cart up the ramp, cross a broken section of track, deliver the load to the top. Crown Familiar Supply brought a licensed stone mule. It cost 48 gold. Its maintenance contract cost 2 gold per month. The mule looked like a block of granite that had learned resentment. My side had 12 small constructs from the same parent ingot, 6 beetles, 4 spiders, 2 cart pullers. Total material cost was 4 silver and 70 copper. The price difference was so large that Toma checked it twice. By the time the test began, more than 200 students surrounded the yard. Even instructors came. Roland stood at the top of the ramp. Naral stood beside the stone mule. "Certified unit first," he said. The mule was good, very good. It leaned into the cart and pulled 200 kilograms up the first slope without slowing. At the broken track, it stepped over the gap while a handler guided the wheels across a narrow plank. Total time was 3 minutes and 12 seconds. The crowd applauded. Naral looked at me. Reliability is rarely dramatic. Neither is accounting. I placed my 12 constructs around the cart. 6 beetles went under the frame, 2 pullers attached to the front axle, 4 spiders climbed the sides. I connected them with 3 thin steel rods. The moment the rods locked, the parent metal recognized a larger shape. 12 separate bodies became one distributed machine, not fused, not transformed, coordinated. "Move," I said. The cart rolled. The crowd shouted immediately. The first slope was slower than the stone mule. That did not matter. At the broken track, the mule had needed a plank. I gave a different command. "Bridge." The 4 spiders jumped down. 2 beetles detached. They locked their legs across the gap. The steel rods shifted from pulling frame to support frame. 6 miniature bodies formed a living bridge beneath the left wheels. The other 6 pulled. The cart crossed without stopping. Narel's face changed. Roland took 1 step forward. Students began screaming the time. 2 minutes. 2 minutes and 20. 1 bridge beetle slipped. A wheel crushed half its shell. The crowd gasped. The formation stopped. Narel exhaled. Then the damaged beetle twisted its flattened body 90 degrees and became a better wedge. The wheel climbed over it. The cart continued. I felt the lesson pass through the connected metal. The other bridge units lowered their shells and copied the angle. The last meter became easier than the first. The cart crossed the finish line. Toma looked at the clock. 2 minutes and 51 seconds. For a moment, nobody reacted. Then the service yard became a stadium. Students climbed rails. Someone threw a hat into the air. The kitchen staff had come out with flour on their clothes, and they were louder than everyone else. Naral stared at 12 pieces of metal worth less than 5 silver. His 48 gold mule stood beside them. Toma read the result again. 200 kilograms, 2 minutes and 51 seconds. A student shouted, "How much?" I answered because public education mattered. 4 silver and 70 copper in metal. The laughter that followed was brutal. Not at my constructs, at the number 48 gold. Naral's jaw tightened. Roland closed his eyes. He knew exactly what had happened. A safety review had become an advertisement. I walked to the crushed bridge beetle. It tried to stand. Only 3 legs worked. Sina reached it before I did. She lifted it with both hands. The crowd quieted slightly. "Can you repair it?" she asked. "Yes." "Without erasing this?" She touched the wedge-shaped shell. "Yes." That answer mattered more to me than the cheering. Roland removed the suspension seal from my table in front of everyone. "Commercial rentals may continue under provisional supervision." The crowd applauded again. I looked at Naral. "The other condition." He stared at me. "What?" "Stop calling them toys." Someone near the back laughed first. Then everyone waited. Naral had 2 choices: break his word publicly or swallow it. He looked at the damaged beetle in Sina's hands. "Automatons," he said. The word rolled through the crowd. Not toys. Automatons. My status changed in a single sentence. The Academy Board updated an hour later. My class record still said Toysmith, but beneath it, the provisional title changed to Automaton Breeder. My rank rose from 98 to 63, 35 places. The Forge received 6 new rental requests before dinner. 1 came from the Academy Infirmary for medicine carriers. 1 came from the archive for document carts. 4 came from students who suddenly discovered deep respect for cheap things that worked. Daily projected income rose from 1 gold and 80 silver to 4 gold and 20 silver. I raised Jaro, Dessa, and Kato from 2 silver per day to 3. Jaro stared at the coin. "We have worked for 1 day. You increased output by more than 3 times. Most masters wait a month before raising pay. Most masters are buying 48 gold mules. Dessa laughed hard enough to drop a box of rivets. That evening, we turned the ruined club forge into something new. Jaro built racks. Dessa marked parts bins. Kato repaired the second bellows. Senna wrote rental tags in clear handwriting because mine looked like a spider had dyed in ink. I finished one miniature every 8 to 10 minutes if the parts were ready. Not infinite, not effortless. My arms ached. My palms split beneath the gloves. By midnight, I had finished 27 active automatons. Material and storage was worth 3 gold. Cash after wages and purchases was 9 gold, 11 silver, and 30 copper. Tomorrow's confirmed rentals were worth 4 gold and 20 silver. 3 days ago, I had been ranked last with 1 point. Now students waited outside my forge to place orders. That was the money peak. The strength peak came when I repaired the crushed bridge beetle. I preserved the wedge-shaped shell. Then I connected it to 5 others with 1 rod. Without any command, all 6 lowered themselves into the same reinforced angle. One deformation had become a design lesson for the group. I could now improve a whole parent metal family by letting one member survive a useful mistake. That was powerful. It was also dangerous. Bad lessons could spread too. I wrote a new rule on the wall. Do not preserve stupid damage. Senna read it. Very academic. I may publish. We ate dinner after midnight. Jaro had bought beef stew from the night kitchen with his first extra silver. The meat had cooked until it came apart under a spoon. Thick gravy smelled of onion, black pepper, and roasted bone. There were carrots, soft potatoes, and dark bread brushed with garlic butter. We sat on the floor because the only table was covered in metal parts. The wolf rested its head on Senna's knee, even though it did not need rest. The knight sat beside my bowl like a tiny guard captain. Dessa raised her cup. To not being trash. Kato shook his head. The sign outside still says trash. Leave it, I said. They looked at me. Free advertising. Senna smiled. For a few minutes, the forge felt like a home. Warm food, hot metal, tired people who had been paid fairly, small creatures clicking around our boots. Then every flame in the room leaned east, not from wind, toward the central tower. The automatons stood, all 27. The floor vibrated, once, twice, 3 times. This time, the sound was loud enough for everyone to hear. Kato dropped his spoon. Jaro whispered, "What is that?" A deep, metallic groan moved through the academy foundations. Dust fell from the ceiling. The central tower bell rang once, even though nobody had pulled it. Then a line appeared in the stone wall of my forge, a perfect vertical seam. The wall opened 2 finger widths. Behind it was not dirt. Behind it was a black iron plate, covered in gear teeth larger than my entire body. The wolf pressed against my leg. The knight raised its sword. And for the first time, the ancient machine beneath the academy moved enough for me to hear a mechanism turn. At sunrise, the central tower had moved 3 centimeters east without cracking a single stone around it. By breakfast, every one of my automatons was facing it, while the rest of the academy argued that old towers did not move, and therefore this one had not. I preferred the opinion of the beetles. They had no reason to protect anyone's dignity. The seam behind my forge wall had closed during the night. I marked its position with chalk and told Jaro not to drill there. Because of the giant gear? He asked. Because drilling giant unknown machines is usually a late-stage decision. Senna handed me a bowl of oat porridge with honey, sliced apple, and toasted nuts. You are getting better at caution. I am eating before investigating. Huge improvement. I had taken 3 bites when Toma ran into the forge. He was out of breath. Tournament registration closes in 40 minutes. I am not registered. That is why I ran. He put a stamped notice on the table. The Crown Familiar Cup was the Academy's largest first-year event. The winner received 200 gold, 50 Academy ranking points, and a permanent combat summon license. Yesterday, I would have entered for the license. Today, there was another line on the notice. By order of the Capital Licensing Office, all provisional autonomous constructs would lose public combat authorization after sunset unless their creator passed a recognized tournament evaluation. Senna read it twice. They changed the rule this morning. Toma nodded. A capital director arrived before dawn. Name? Malkin. Neral's boss. The third step on the staircase had arrived early. I finished the porridge. How much is registration? 5 gold. Jaro swore. I opened the cash box. After yesterday's rentals and morning deposits, I had 12 gold and 30 silver. 5 gold was almost half my liquid money. That was not a fee. It was a gate built for people who could afford to lose. I paid it. By the time we reached the arena, the story had already spread. The last place toysmith was entering the Crown Familiar Cup with scrap. More than 800 spectators filled the stone seats. Crystal screens showed the brackets over the field. Nobles sat under shaded canopies. Students packed the upper rows. Kitchen workers had somehow acquired an entire section and a banner with a painted beetle on it. My ranking showed 63. Ovix showed 9. He was competing too. His silver hawk had a new feed tube and a larger breastplate. When he saw me, he looked away. That was new. Roland stood with the officials. He looked like a man who had slept even less than I had. Beside him stood Malkin. He was older than Neral, perhaps 50, gray at the temples, perfect blue coat, no wasted movement. He did not look angry. That made him more dangerous. He came directly to me. Keld. Malkin? His eyes moved to the carrying case at my feet. Neral described your work poorly. He called them toys. That was poor description. Interesting. He offered his hand. I shook it. Crown Familiar Supply will purchase your process for 500 gold, he said. The students near us went silent. 500 gold. My forge currently earned a little over 4 gold per day before costs. 500 could buy a building, equipment, metal for months, and enough food to make me stop calculating breakfast. Senna watched my face. Malkin continued. You keep the Academy workshop. You receive a 10% royalty on licensed production. We handle regulation, distribution, and liability. It was not a stupid offer. That mattered. No. Malkin's expression did not change. May I ask why? Because you changed the licensing rule before making the offer. The nearby students made a quiet sound. His eyes sharpened. The rule was changed because autonomous production without standards is dangerous. Then you should have changed it before my constructs beat your products. Now the sound was louder. Malkin glanced at the witnesses. He understood public arenas too. Win today, he said. Then we discuss standards from a stronger position. Mine or yours? For the first time, he smiled. That depends on who wins. The first round was against a student named Rusk and a bronze-backed lizard worth 32 gold. Tournament rules allowed 1 registered summon per contestant. My registration listed Pack Frame 1. The officials had argued about it for 20 minutes. Pack Frame 1 entered the field as 12 miniatures connected by a light steel spine. 6 beetles below, 4 spiders along the sides, 2 wolves at the front, 1 parent ingot, 1 connected mechanism at the moment of entry. Roland had approved it with the expression of a man signing his own headache. Rusk stared at the thing. That is 12 summons. The judge pointed at the registry crystal. 1 bonded signature. The arena laughed. Rusk did not. His lizard charged. Pack Frame 1 separated. The crowd screamed. Rusk shouted at the judge. It split! The judge stared at the crystal. The signature remained 1. Legal. Continue. The bronze lizard snapped at 1 wolf. The wolf let it. Its shoulder plate bent inside the jaws. Then the 6 beetles locked around the lizard's rear legs. The spiders ran under its belly and connected their rods. The second wolf pulled the tail sideways. 12 cheap bodies applied force in 12 useful directions. The lizard fell. It tried to stand. The damaged wolf used its new shoulder bend as a hook beneath the jaw. The lizard could not lift its head. Rusk surrendered after 53 seconds. The arena erupted. A crystal screen displayed the estimated values. Rusk's familiar, 32 gold. Pack Frame 1, 6 gold and 12 silver in metal and labor. Someone in the kitchen section yelled, "Too expensive, Keld!" I looked toward them. I used better steel. 800 people laughed. First round, public witness. Strength increased because the pack learned how to turn one damaged shoulder into a locking hook. Status increased when my rank moved from 63 to 51. Money did not increase yet. So I went to the tournament service desk. Can I rent transport units during the break? The clerk stared at me. You are competing. The Beatles are not. By the second round, 6 of my non-combat units were moving drink barrels for arena vendors at 1 silver per trip. They made 14 trips before lunch. 14 silver. Money moved too. The second round was harder. My opponent, Dessa's old combat instructor Sivan, used a windcat worth 80 gold. It was fast enough that my pack could not surround it. For the first minute, it hit us whenever it wanted. One spider lost 2 legs. A beetle was folded nearly in half. One wolf had its jaw twisted sideways. The crowd became quiet. Malkin watched from the official's balcony. He expected the cheap machines to reach their limit. So did I. Limits were useful information. The windcat attacked from above. The twisted jaw wolf snapped at empty air. Its jaw did not close correctly. Instead, the bent side caught the steel spine of pack frame 1. The wolf lifted off the ground while still attached. I saw the shape. Connect high. The spiders climbed the spine. The beetles formed the base. The 2 wolves locked at the top. The pack stopped behaving like a swarm. It became a flexible tower. The windcat attacked again. The tower bent with the strike instead of resisting it. Then it snapped back. One wolf caught the cat's rear leg in its deformed jaw. The whole mechanism folded around the familiar. Not strong enough to crush it, strong enough to hold it for 3 seconds. 3 seconds was enough. Sivan's familiar touched the boundary line. Ring out. The judge raised my side's flag. The arena exploded again. Sivan stared at pack frame 1. Then he laughed. I trained students for 12 years and lost to a folding shelf. A 6 gold folding shelf. He laughed harder and shook my hand. That mattered too. Not every opponent needed to hate me. The crowd saw respect from a veteran instructor. My rank jumped from 51 to 34. At lunch, Senna dragged me beneath the western stands before I could accept another rental request. She had packed noodles tossed with sesame oil, strips of beef, green onion, cucumber, and a soft-boiled egg with a dark soy center. There were fried dumplings wrapped in paper. The bottoms were crisp. The filling was pork, cabbage, and ginger. I ate 6 dumplings before speaking. You were right. About what? Hands. My palms were bleeding again beneath the wraps. She took my right hand and unwound the cloth. You cannot finish another 20 tonight. I can finish 8. Keld. 7. She glared. 5. Cruel negotiator. She cleaned the cut with alcohol. It burned. I did not pull away. Around us, the arena roared for another match. Senna tied fresh cloth around my palm. Everyone is looking at what you can make, she said. I am looking at what it costs you to keep making it. I looked at her. That was the closest anyone had come to describing the real problem. My cheat broke the world's rule about cores. It did not break time. It did not break exhaustion. It did not give me more hands. 5 tonight, I said. Good. And maybe 1 tiny spoon. Why? Research. She hit my shoulder with the napkin. The quarterfinal opponent was Ovik. Of course it was. The arena loved drama. He entered with the silver hawk that had started everything. The crowd began chanting prices before the match even started. 75 gold, 6 gold, 75 gold, 6 gold. Ovik's ears turned red. I almost felt bad. Almost. He stood across from me. I replaced the feed conduit with armored tubing. Good. The neck is reinforced. Good. It will not lose the same way twice. I looked at the repaired hawk, then at my scarred pack. Neither will mine. The match began. Ovik had learned. He kept the hawk airborne, no direct dives, no exposed feed line. He used wind pressure to scatter the pack and silver feathers to pin individual units. In 2 minutes, he disabled 4. The crowd stopped chanting. I smiled. Ovik noticed. What? You finally stopped fighting the price tag? He understood. He had spent 2 days trying to prove expensive meant strong. Now he was simply fighting well. That made him dangerous. The hawk launched another feather. It pierced the damaged beetle that had learned the bridge angle. The The beetle was pinned to the ground. The rest of the pack changed formation instantly. They knew where the pinned member was through parent metal. They did not need to see it. 4 spiders ran in opposite directions and pulled the steel spine low across the sand. The hawk descended to avoid it. That was the trap. The 2 wolves jumped from different sides. One missed. The other caught the armored neck, not the feed tube, the armor itself. Its deformed jaw locked around a raised plate edge. The hawk climbed. The wolf went with it. The connected spine pulled tight. 3 beetles became anchors. The hawk dragged them 2 meters, then 4, then slowed. Ovik shouted for more lift. The silver hawk beat its wings. The wolf's jaw began to tear. I knew the metal would fail, so I gave the command before it did. Release! The wolf dropped. The sudden loss of resistance threw the hawk backward. It crossed the upper boundary marker in the air. Ring out. For half a second, nobody understood. Then the judge raised my flag. The arena became noise. Ovik stared at the boundary, then at me. He had not been crushed. He had not been humiliated by weakness. He had lost because I made his strength pull him out of the field. The crowd still laughed when someone shouted the prices again. Ovik closed his eyes. Then he walked over and held out his hand. I hate your beetles. I shook it. They are becoming fond of you. The pinned beetle clicked from the sand. Ovik laughed despite himself. That ended the local rivalry better than another insult could. My rank reached 18. The semifinal lasted longer and cost me 3 destroyed shells, but the pack won by using the folding tower lesson against a firehound. Destroyed did not mean dead if the metal remained recoverable. I collected every fragment myself. By the final, pack frame 1 looked terrible. Bent shells, mismatched legs, 1 wolf with half a jaw, 3 spiders carrying replacement rods. The crowd loved them now. The crystal screen showed my opponent. There was no student name. Malkin walked onto the field. The arena went silent. Roland stood from the officials' table. Director, the cup is for students. Malkin handed him a sealed paper. Capital Evaluation Clause. A provisional creator may be tested by a licensed master before permanent authorization. I am invoking it for the final. Boos rolled through the upper seats. Malkin ignored them. A gate opened behind him. Something enormous walked out. A white armored lion with crystal horns. The registry screen identified it as a royal Aegis beast. Certified value, 640 gold. Monthly maintenance, 12 gold. The crowd read the numbers and went insane. Malkin looked at me across the field. If your process is going to change this industry, it should survive the best we sell. If it loses, you receive the 500 gold offer. Your license transfers with the process. And if I win? Malkin paused. 800 people waited. Permanent license, cup prize, and Crown Familiar Supply will sign a public acknowledgement that coreless automatons are a legal summon class. There it was. Not just money, a market. Agreed. The Royal Aegis Beast hit pack frame 1 like a carriage falling from a roof. 6 units flew apart. The steel spine snapped. 1 wolf hit the barrier hard enough to flatten its ribs. The crowd screamed. Malkin did not smile. He was testing seriously. The lion attacked again. I had no formation strong enough to stop it, so I stopped trying. Scatter! The surviving bodies separated. The lion chased the fastest wolf. Every strike damaged something. Every damaged piece taught me a shape. Flattened beetles slid better under paws. Twisted spiders hooked armor seams. Bent rods flexed instead of breaking. The problem was time. I could learn faster than the pack could survive. The lion cornered the last intact wolf. Malkin gave one command. Finish. The lion raised a paw. The wolf did not run. It looked at me. Behind it lay fragments from 11 bodies. Same parent metal, same mechanism. I finally saw what I had been missing. A mechanism did not require every part to be standing. It only required every part to have a function. Assemble around damage, I said. The broken pieces moved. Not all of them. Enough. A bent spider leg hooked a rod. A flattened beetle shell became a plate. A torn wolf jaw locked a joint. The surviving bodies dragged the fragments together beneath the lion's raised paw. They did not become a bigger animal. They became a trap, shaped by every wound they had survived. The lion stepped down. Its paw entered the structure. The broken pack folded around the joint. The harder the lion pulled, the tighter the damaged angles locked. Malkin's eyes widened. "Break it." The lion pulled. One rod snapped. The load shifted to 3 bent shells. It pulled again. A spider body folded and became a second lock. The pack was using its entire history as geometry. The Royal Aegis beast could have shattered them eventually. It did not have eventually. The tournament boundary was 6 meters behind it. I pointed. "Pull." Every surviving unit moved in the opposite direction. They could not overpower a 640 gold lion. They did not need to. The lion did the work itself. It jerked backward to free its paw. 1 meter. 2. The trap held. 3. 4. Malkin realized it first. "Stop!" Too late. The lion ripped its paw free on the final pull. Its own momentum carried it across the boundary. The judge stared at the line. The entire academy held its breath. Then the flag rose on my side. For one impossible second, 800 people made no sound. Toma's voice came through the arena crystal. "Winner! Keld!" The noise hit like weather. Students jumped over benches. The kitchen section lost its banner because 6 people were waving it at once. Jaro lifted Kato off the ground. Dessa screamed something I could not hear. Senna did not scream. She stood at the rail with both hands over her mouth and tears in her eyes. The crystal screen displayed the values one last time. 640 gold against 6 gold and 12 silver. Then it displayed the prize. 200 gold. Permanent license. Recognized class. My rank moved from 18 to 3. Malkin stood alone on the field while the crowd chanted one word. "Automatons! Automatons! Automatons!" He looked at me. Then he walked to the official's platform, took the public contract, and signed it. Crown Familiar Supply acknowledged coreless automatons as a legal summon class. He signed in front of 800 witnesses and 6 recording crystals. That was the public loss that mattered. Not his lion crossing a line. His monopoly crossed it too. When he returned, he handed me the contract. 500 gold was cheap, he said. "Yes, I know," he almost smiled. "Do not mistake today's result for the end of regulation." "I won't." "Good, because now every government office in the capital will want to know what you are." "Toysmith." He laughed once. Then the ground moved. Not shook, moved. The entire arena shifted half a meter north. People fell from benches. Stones screamed beneath our feet. The central tower split from top to bottom along 4 perfect seams. Its outer walls folded away like armor plates. Behind them was black metal. Gears, pistons, a column of ancient machinery wider than the arena. The tower was not opening, it was unfolding. Across the academy, roofs lifted as hidden joints unlocked beneath them. Courtyards rotated. Stone bridges retracted into iron sockets. Every one of my automatons, including the broken pieces on the tournament field, turned toward the tower. The ancient mechanism gave one sound, a deep click. My 27 living constructs answered together. Then the academy stood up. The next morning, the academy was resting on 6 black iron legs, each thicker than a city gate. It had taken one step during the night, then frozen, with half the western dormitory hanging 20 meters above the ground. Nobody called my work toys anymore. That was nice. The emergency was less nice. Nearly 3,000 students and staff had been evacuated to the southern field. The city guards surrounded the academy. Crystal screens showed the central tower, now exposed as the upper spine of a machine large enough to carry every classroom, forge, dormitory, and arena on its back. Roland found me beside a field kitchen. "The headmaster wants you." "I am eating." He stared at me. Senna handed me another spoonful of thick chicken soup before he could argue. The soup had noodles, carrots, shredded meat, and enough black pepper to hurt. Fresh bread had been brushed with butter and garlic. I had been awake most of the night, helping pull people from tilted buildings. "He can have Keld in 4 minutes, Senna said. Roland looked at my bandaged hands. Then he sat on the grass. "Make it 3. Progress." 3 days ago, he had given me a ruined forge and 1 point. Now he waited while I finished soup. Malkin, Ovik, Toma, Jaro, Dessa, and Kato were already inside the emergency command tent. A mechanical map covered the central table. Roland pointed at a red circle beneath the tower. The Academy has a central drive chamber. We did not know what it was until last night. Malkin corrected him. We knew there was a sealed chamber. We did not know the entire campus was attached to it. Important difference, I said. Nobody laughed. Bad sign. Roland continued. The main governor has failed. The machine is trying to complete an old movement command. Where is it going? Toma turned the map. A line ran north from the Academy, straight through the lower city. If it takes 3 more steps, he said, the eastern leg enters the residential district. Time? We do not know. The ground clicked beneath us. Everyone went silent. Now we know it is not long, Ovik said. Malkin placed a metal fragment on the table, black iron, ancient, one edge freshly broken. This came from the governor housing. Royal engineers cannot enter the chamber. The internal defense mechanisms treat every person as an intruder. I looked at my wolf. It stood beside Senna. And small constructs? We have not tried. Good. Malkin frowned. Why is that good? Because if you had tried everything, I would have to invent something new before breakfast settled. This time, Ovik laughed. We entered through the seam behind my forge. Roland came because he knew the Academy plans. Ovik came because his hawk could carry people across open shafts. Malkin came because the emergency licensing office apparently believed paperwork should witness death personally. Senna came because I failed to stop her. You are an alchemy student, I told her. And you are a toysmith. Titles are having a bad week. Fair. The passage behind the forge descended into black metal. My wolf went first. 6 beetles followed. The knight rode on the wolf's back with its broken sword raised. After 50 meters, the corridor split. My constructs all chose the left path. No command. They could feel vibration through metal better than we could. The left path ended at a vertical shaft. Gears moved below us. Each tooth was larger than a bed. Ovik's silver hawk carried us across one at a time. When it returned for me, I looked at the armored feed tube. Good repair. Ovik glared. I am going to throw you into the shaft. Your maintenance costs are still 4 gold a month. 5 now. I upgraded the armor because of you. Excellent business for Malkin. Malkin, already on the other side, looked away. Even Roland laughed. The first defense mechanism attacked 2 minutes later. A steel arm unfolded from the wall and swung at chest height. We ducked. My wolf did not. The arm hit it and threw it into a gear casing. Senna shouted. The wolf stood with a new dent along its ribs. Then it ran under the neck swing at exactly the safe height created by that dent. It had learned again. The beetles followed its line. We followed the beetles. Damage became a map. The second defense was steam. One spider entered the vent corridor and came back with half its legs bent from heat. I did not send another blindly. I attached a thin chain to the damaged spider and let it lead the others through the cooler, lower edge it had discovered. The third defense was a rotating floor. 6 beetles locked together and became a moving bridge. Every old lesson returned. The flower test, the rescue ramp, the tournament. Nothing was wasted. At the central chamber, we found the real problem. The governor was a wheel 40 meters wide. One section had cracked loose. Each time the main drive turned, the broken section slipped. The Academy interpreted the slip as incomplete motion and tried again. Another step, then another. Roland stared upward. We cannot replace that before the city is crushed. Malkin touched the black fragment in his pocket. Could your automatons hold it? I looked at the wheel. Mine? No. His face fell. But hers might. I pointed at the Academy wall. Nobody understood except Senna. She looked at the fragment, then at me. Same parent metal. Exactly. I could not command the Academy. I had not forged it. I could not awaken a giant machine with my cheat. But I could take metal from the Academy itself and forge living miniatures from it. Those miniatures would share origin with the machine around us. Not ownership, recognition. Malkin gave me the fragment. How many? I waited. Maybe 8 beetles. Is 8 enough? No. The ground moved. Far above us, stone crashed. Toma's voice came through the communication crystal. Second movement. The northern leg shifted 6 meters. 2 steps remained before the residential line. We need more metal, I said. Roland pointed at a cracked maintenance plate. That panel is non-structural. Jaro, Dessa, and Kato were waiting at the forge entrance with tools. I sent the order through Toma. Cut the plate into blanks. Do not complete anything. Bring a portable furnace down. Malkin looked at me. You are building a workshop inside the machine. The rent is terrible, but the location is excellent. 20 minutes later, the strangest production line in Academy history began. Jaro heated ancient black metal. Dessa cut shells. Kato punched joint holes. Roland held a lamp. Ovik carried hot blanks across the shaft with his 75 gold hawk. Malkin operated the bellows because nobody else had a free hand. Senna wrapped my palms twice and fed me pieces of salted bread between hammer cycles. I performed every final forging myself. First beetle, awake. Second, awake. Third. The moment the third touched the chamber floor, all three turned toward the broken governor. Malkin stopped pumping the bellows. They know. They recognize the machine. Fourth, fifth, sixth. My hands started shaking. Senna caught my wrist. Slow down. We have 2 steps. A bad final strike gives us dead metal. She was right. I breathed once, then finished the 7th. The Academy clicked. All 7 beetles clicked back. The giant governor slowed for half a second. Everyone saw it. Again, Roland said. 8th, 9th, 10th. The beetles entered the mechanism. They did not attack it. They crawled along the teeth and settled into gaps where vibration was strongest. Through their motion, I could see the machine's problem without a diagram. 3 climbed the cracked governor segment. 2 went to the opposite side. 5 gathered around a secondary latch that had failed closed. The main crack was not the only problem. The latch was forcing the wheel to repeat its movement. There, I said. Roland followed my finger. That lock? It needs to open when the wheel completes a turn. It is stuck. Malkin stared at the ancient mechanism. Can the beetles move it? Not 10. How many? I looked at the remaining blanks. 24 might. The communication crystal screamed. Toma's voice broke through static. Third movement starting. We felt the Academy lift. Above us, thousands of tons shifted. One more step after this would enter the city. I forged. 11th, 12th, 13th. My right palm opened under the bandage. Blood hit the hammer handle. Senna wrapped her hand over mine. Grip with the fingers, not the palm. I adjusted. 14th, 15th. The governor turned. The beetles scattered before the teeth crushed them. 16th, 17th. Ovik's hawk arrived with more blanks. Its wings were smoking from furnace heat. 5 gold a month, I said. Ovik shouted, Forge! I forged. 18th, 19th, 20th. The Academy's third step landed. The shock threw all of us to the floor. The city alarm bells began ringing above. 1 step remained. 21st, 22nd. My hammer slipped. The shell warped wrong. I stopped before the final strike. Dead metal. Good. Better unfinished than a bad lesson. Dessa shoved another blank toward me. 23rd, 24th. The moment the last beetle woke, all 24 moved. No separate commands. They knew the same machine. 8 wedged beneath the failed latch. 8 anchored against the governor housing. 8 connected between them with thin rods. 1 parent machine. 1 temporary mechanism. Lift, I said. Nothing. The latch was too heavy. Malkin whispered, No. The main drive began turning again. The final step was starting. I looked at the beetles, then at the old bridge beetle beside my boot. Its crushed shell had once taught 6 others how to become wedges. I had brought it from my own pack. Different metal. It could not share recognition with the Academy. It could still teach geometry. I placed it where the 24 could see. It lowered its wedge-shaped body beneath my hammer handle. The Academy beetles copied the angle. Not through magic, through design. 24 bodies tilted. The rods changed from straight pull to lever arms. Force multiplied. The latch moved 1 finger width. Roland shouted, Again! The beetles lowered farther. The latch rose. The governor reached the end of its rotation. For the first time in centuries, the lock opened. The main wheel completed 1 clean turn, then stopped. The entire Academy froze. No click, no second attempt, no final step, only silence. Toma's voice came through the crystal. Movement stopped. Nobody in the chamber moved. Then the southern field erupted through the communication crystals. 3,000 people were cheering. We heard it underground. Students, teachers, kitchen workers, city guards. The same world that had laughed when a silver hawk crushed my 9 copper knight was now screaming because 24 tiny beetles had stopped a walking academy. Roland sat on the floor and laughed until he could not breathe. Ovik leaned against his expensive hawk. Malkin looked at the bellows in his hands. I am never putting this in the official report. Put the price, I said. He stared at me. What price? I looked at the ancient metal scraps. Material was free. Labor was expensive. Senna held up my bleeding hands. Very expensive. The public result was recorded before sunset. The Crown Familiar Cup paid me 200 gold. The Academy added a 300 gold emergency repair grant to my forge. My assistants received 10 gold each as hazard bonuses. The old Miniature Arts Society became the Coreless Automaton Workshop. Its monthly metal subsidy rose from 5 gold to 60. My ranking moved from 3 to 1. The board still listed my original class beneath my name, Toy Smith. Nobody asked to change it. I did not want them to. That night, we ate in the forge because the dormitories were still being lowered back into place. The kitchen sent everything it had left from the evacuation meal: roast chicken with crisp skin, buttered potatoes, hot bread, beef stew, rice with garlic, apple pie still warm in the center. Jaro ate 3 plates. Dessa fell asleep against a parts cabinet. Kato gave 1 crust to a beetle, then remembered it could not eat. The beetle carried the crust to the wolf anyway. The wolf bit it. The bread fell through its empty body. 5 days of progress had changed many things. That had not changed. Senna sat beside me on the forge step. You are rank 1 now. Temporary. You have 500 gold in awards. Before taxes. You stopped the academy from walking through the city. The beetles did most of the lifting. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she kissed my cheek. You are terrible at celebrating. I touched the spot. I can improve through deformation. She laughed and leaned against my shoulder. Inside the forge, the dented knight climbed onto the anvil. It still carried the broken sword from the first day. I had never repaired that part. The broken blade reminded me what completion did not mean. Complete did not mean perfect. It meant alive enough to continue. I looked around the forge. 5 days ago, it had been dust, rust, and a sign calling it trash. Now, 37 automatons slept or pretended to sleep on shelves, under tables, and beside the furnace. Orders worth 12 gold per day covered the wall. 3 assistants had permanent wages. The Academy had recognized a new summon class. Crown Familiar Supply had lost its monopoly and gained a reason to become better. Ovik had learned to fight instead of brag. Roland had learned that safety rules worked better when they came before embarrassment. I had learned that 9 copper could be enough to start a life. The quiet voice in my head spoke once more. Class path advanced. Smith of life recognized. No new power followed. Good. I already had enough problems. The next sound came from the shelf. Every automaton made from Academy metal stood at the same time. 24 black beetles turned north. Not toward the central tower, past it, toward the mountains beyond the city. The Academy answered with 1 soft click beneath our feet. A second click came from far away, too deep to be thunder, too regular to be stone. Senna stopped smiling. I looked at the black beetles, then at the mountains. Somewhere beyond them, another enormous machine had just recognized that the Academy was awake. I picked up my hammer. At least this time I had more than 9 copper.